Okay, I think we're actually live now. So, hello everyone and welcome to my first stream. And today we're going to be sculpting an island map for my indie game, and we're going to be using Blender to do just that. The main reason why I decided to use Blender instead of Unreal Engine's editor is because the Unreal Engine's editor fucking sucks. So basically it keeps clipping stuff and everything has very sharp edges. It's basically unusable in real time. So instead I'm going to use Blender and then I'm going to use it to export the height map right into Unreal Engine. Let's get right into it. So, in the starter file, I don't have that much. All I have is a big ass plane. It's completely empty and it's pretty big because I think it's like 8,000 meters, so pretty big. We also have a Bezier circle, a camera, so that I can export a video or a time lapse, if you will. And here we can see the camera view. Pretty simple stuff. And then the last thing we have is a sun lighting to, light the scene that we're going to export. So, first we will have to go into our sculpt mode. Let's enable the dynamic topology. Yeah, super, great. Alrighty, let's give it a try. And it seems to be working. Good. So, let's start off with the most basic shape, which is going to be a big ass circle. Strength 1, no need for a fall off at this time. Let's bump up the radius to, I want to say 150. Nope, too small. Actually, yeah, we'll make do. Or maybe we won't. Where the fuck did it go? And nothing happened. Great. Thanks, Blender. That is not exactly how I envisioned it. So, seeing how we can't get it to work as we want, let's go maybe decrease it to half again. And let's make the fall off constant instead. Nope. And that's much better, actually. Huh. The only thing we actually have to do now is go back into object mode and set it to smooth. Hey, that is surprisingly good. I'm not quite happy with the complete lack of elevation on this level, so I'm actually going to keep this part low because I want it to be a beach. So let's keep this one low. But on the other hand, this part over here is going to be a bunch of mountains. So let's lift it up considerably. Not that much, but that's a problem for another time. And then over here, I'm going to put a big ass mountain. So let's get back to the previous follow. I think it was smooth. This is not exactly the optimal brush for mountain making, but it's fine. Let's try flattening up this surface. Or maybe smoothing it first. Yeah, that's what I wanted. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Let's turn on some music. Okay. And we are on. What I'm doing right now is trying to get a better material capture, because I can't really see anything right now. And I wish there was something that would sharpen up the edges a bit. Nope. Unlikely. Hell no. How about if we go back to shading flat? Not exactly what I wanted. Whatever, we'll just have to learn to deal with it. The overall shape isn't bad, actually. Let's just make a few modifications to make it even better. We should use a different brush for that one and enable dynamic topology again. Probably decrease the radius a bit, let's say 100. And let's try dragging up the mountain. The topology is going crazy, but whatever. Shit! Basically, we don't have to sculpt the entire island in Blender. We can add a lot of modifications in Unreal, but I think it's very important to sculpt the general shape in Blender, because, you know, the Unreal is just not good for that. And then we can export a very high quality high map back to Unreal. So let's try smoothing it up now and see if the entire thing breaks, basically. I don't want to smooth it up too much because, you know, I think it's a part of the charm of high mountains to be kind of, well, or craggy, I guess. Let's go with elastic deform again. Just a little bit. You know, the mountain looks small in Blender, but it's going to be fucking massive back in Unreal. Basically, it's supposed to be maybe not exactly Mount Everest, but definitely a pretty high mountain with snow and blizzards and all that other shit. Drag it out back from the sea, because the island is obviously going to be surrounded by an ocean, or a sea, I guess. Yeah, the mountain looks actually decent. But I'm a bit worried about the scale, to be honest with you. I mean, I can deal with it, but I guess it's fine. We are operating on a pretty big zoom out right now, so every change we make is actually pretty big, you know, considering the scale. Let's see. In the middle of it, we're going to have a village, so I want it to be pretty much completely flat, because it's going to fuck with my building system if the village is not flat. The flatten tool is very interesting in Blender, I have to admit. And by interesting, I mean it doesn't work. But we can deal with that in other ways. I'm going to use a little trick now because, as you can see, this is not exactly perfect. But we're going to go back to object mode and add a little mesh. Let's go with cylinder, I guess. Yeah, sure, 32, this is fine. Let's go with radius 500. That's a bit big. I mean, the village is not going to be that big. 200? Is the village going to be that big? I can deal with that. Let's also scale it up. What do you guys think? 200? Perfect. This is basically going to be a marker that shows me where the village is. Go back to smooth shading. Yep. It's a bit big. Fine. Back to sculpting. Let's try sculpting out the hills, because basically the map is going to be split into a couple biomes. So here's the village, this is where the player is going to start, and this is the main hub area, so to speak. And then here we have the high mountain, which is going to be an, end game location. Here's going to be the, I guess, second to last end game location, which is going to be a bunch of lower mountains. Here we are going to have some hills, like grassy plains, fields, and stuff like that. And then here we are going to have a beach biome. So the beach biome is actually pretty much complete, because all we need is raise it up from sea a little bit. Here we have it's a bit higher than the rest of the beach, which is fine, because this is the transition into the field hill biome area. We're actually going to put something else in here, a different biome, but I'm not going to talk about it right now because it's going to be something completely out of the blue, so to speak. So let's maybe try sculpting out the mountains for now. The first thing we're going to do is a little bit of an indentation inside, because this is where the hub area for the mountains is going to be, basically like a stop for the player. Let's go with a radius of 70, I would say. Now, what was the shortcut in Blender? Shift? Nope. Control? Nope. Alt? Definitely not. Ah, of course. Okay, I can deal with that. It's not supposed to be big, it's supposed to be a very small mountain settlement, not even a village. So this is fine. At least for our purposes. And one more thing we have to block out is basically a pretty big drop between the village area and the northern area and the southern area over here. So it's going to be like a cliff. Let's actually go... Ah, it's fine. I want the player to be forced to kind of go around. So there's going to be a road around here. And then to enter this area, they will actually have to go through like a tunnel or a valley. So let's start handling these two mountains first. But we're going to change the follow. Which one looks the most like a mountain? Let's go with the sharper one. Nothing we can smooth out. One of the mountains is going to be very close to the village, basically to kind of let the player know that the area is here, and I'm going to put a custom building on top of that mountain to kind of, arouse the player's curiosity. Let's actually switch back to the elastic deform, because the snake hook is a bit too much. I want to flatten up the tip, not that much maybe. God damn it. Yeah, since there's going to be a building on top of it, it can't be really spiky. It has to be a bit flattened up. Yeah, I can live with that. Now these two mountains, as I said, the player will be forced to go around over here. So these two mountains will be connected by a ridge. I'm not quite sure how to accomplish that, but let's just play with a few things and see what happens. Definitely not that. How about fill? Yeah, that's not it either. I guess we could always go with elastic deform. The all reliable. I don't really like the shape of this mountain. We're going to have to smooth it up without destroying it completely, of course. The fuck is that? We can make this mountain a bit more pointy actually, so let's go back to the snake hook tool. God damn it, I said pointy. I actually kind of like that. I don't actually have to sculpt like trails around the mountains or anything, because this is something that will definitely be easier to do in Unreal. I can just put down a spline and then have the terrain shift to actually fit the spline, which is perfect for roads. Although it is a little bit too pointy. Yeah, it was too pointy and now I made it even more pointy. So, good job me, but I'm leaving it alone, because I actually kind of like it now. But the ridge over here between these two mountains is something that I do not want. So let's see how we can get rid of it. How about trees, but not that much of a radius? 70? Not quite what I wanted. Definitely not what I wanted. That's interesting. I could work with that, right? Could I? Nope. Yeah, I have a bit of experience in sculpting, but never exactly sculpted a map before. So if you think I have no idea what I'm doing, you are correct, 100%. In that case, let's try draw sharp. Hey, this is exactly what I needed. It would be nice if it started taking effect on that little bump over here, but other than that, it's going pretty well. What the fuck is happening over here? Maybe let's try from a different angle? Nope. Ah, Blender, come on. It doesn't have to be perfectly leveled, because it maybe even is better that there is a slight height difference in the transition. But it definitely has to be way lower than this ridge over here. And that's pretty much the objective for now. And the height difference is good, because basically the player comes from over here and slowly climbs the little slope. And then from here they have a pretty nice village of the pretty nice view of the entire village down below. So the height difference might even be a good thing, but I think it's still a bit too big. This little pitfall over here is definitely not something I would like. I can feel my PC slowing down as we add faces using the dynamic topology, but it has to be done. When it gets too bad, I'll probably remesh the entire thing and then start adding the new faces once more. So there's definitely ways around that, and it's not a big thing, for now at least. Let's just smooth it up a bit more. I also smooth up the sides a bit. But if I try to smooth up the trail, then it's going to basically go back up to the same level as the mountain. Unless I go into a big zoom, and now I can smooth it up. And actually I can't. But this being not smooth is not a big deal, because once again, I can apply a lot of corrections back in Unreal. The main thing we need to do today, and basically over the course of this entire series, is to create the general overview of the map. Okay. That's not bad. I'm thinking we could have the village, the mountain village, surrounded by like a moat, I guess. And then we could have a bunch of rivers flowing down from the mountains. There's actually a place that kind of resembles it in Poland, so it would be nice to have it in here too. But let's think about that later. First, let's block out the entire biome. The next thing is going to be a mountain around here. Then there's going to be a mountain around here. And the last one will be probably somewhere here. Then the rest of this is going to be a dense forest, transitioning into the hills I mentioned before. And yeah, that's, you know, it's blocked out, okay? But the mountains, especially the ones over here, look like shit. So we'll definitely have to work on that. And preferably even now. Smoothen it up. Move. I'm pretty sure I set it to sharper earlier, but I don't know, maybe I'm going insane. Anyway, let's bump up the strength a bit, 0.7. What the fuck just happened? What is that? Oh, okay. I actually set it a bit too high now. There's something wrong with the tip over here. Every time I try to smooth it up, it basically goes really, really low. It's probably some kind of problem with the dynamic topology. And when I try to bring it up, see, it's really fucking pointy. Let's try to solve it with a different tool. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do about this space, but I'll definitely think of something. But for now, let me bring it up a bit. Okay, that's a bit better. This one also needs to be considerably higher. I'd also like a bigger ridge between those two mountains to make it a bit more scenic from the main village. $120. Maybe... yeah, we'll need to move the ridge. Because it just doesn't look good. It would be much better for the ridge to go around here and then basically enter the mountain from this side. So this would be the new ridge. Let me bring it up. Yeah, something like this, but then we need to adjust the levels around here, because I've never seen a mountain that would have such a massive overhang. Basically, I'm using it to create depth once again. Because the view from over here, if there's just a simple ridge, it doesn't look very good. But if the ridge actually goes a bit backwards, then it introduces depth into the composition. So it's way better. We just have to sculpt it to look way better. And that's the difficult part of the process. Go back to elastic deform and basically bring the mountain a bit out to the side, kind of obstruct the ridge. Smoothen it up. I'll probably put a river here or something, or some kind of stream. Let's just... a bit of contrast between the two parts. Smoothen up the side over here. Especially this part. I'm not a big fan of that either. The ridge is a bit too big, because, remember, this is going to be on a massive scale. Add a bit of a curve to it. Yeah. And see, that's the depth I was talking about. It looks way better to have the edge over here, and then have the ridge curving around and behind it. At least in my opinion. Feel free to disagree, of course, but I think that's way better. Although we already have something similar here, so we could combine it actually into a sort of camp and then make a resting area over here for the player, because resting is going to be a pretty important mechanic in the game. Let's also bring this ridge up a bit. No, it doesn't have to be perfectly smooth. It's even better if it's not exactly smooth, because that gives me an area to work. Let's see. How can we make a camp here? How can we do it in a pretty and smart way? Let's try the flatten brush, maybe. Is it just me, or did the music die? Fucking cat, come on. Okay. I think we might need to take the entire slope of the mountain out a bit. Which is good, because we have a lot of space here that's basically not used for anything. And then we'll contrast it up. Yeah, so now we have a relatively flat resting area over here. We can actually bring this one out a bit, smoothen it up. So we still have that nice depth around here. This one is actually in the wrong place because it ruins the depth. But yeah, this is pretty nice. I'm going to flatten it up a bit more in Unreal Engine later on, but this is pretty decent. Yeah, let's accentuate the ridge a bit more. Smoothen it up. And bring it out. Wrong camera angle. That's better. I actually kind of like it. One thing I would like to also have is a bigger contrast between this part and the ridge over here. And the reason we are having this contrast is basically to force the player, or maybe not force, but guide the player to make their way over here, rest at the camp that we're going to have prepared over here, and then go either here, or maybe to this mountain, wherever they want. So basically it's to kind of guide the player's progression to the camp. And maybe I'll put an NPC over there or something. We can actually put a pretty sheer drop over here and then use it to kind of as a riverbed or some kind of a mountain stream. But how to do it in a nice and smart way? That's the question. I think the best way is to basically just give it a sort of outline and then actually do the the stream in Unreal, because once again it has the possibility to create splines and automatically level everything to the spline. So you're just drawing the outline, but it's way too fucking big. I mean, it's a mountain stream, not a river. Birdie. Okay, that is decent. Like 80. And let's bring out the village a bit more. All right. Oh, I actually have some messages in chat. Hello everyone, this is my first stream, so sorry if I'm a bit non-responsive, but there aren't any notifications. And I just noticed that the slope of this mountain is way off. What the fuck? I saw a mountain that looked a little bit like it back in Czech Republic, but definitely not so much. Let's bring out the mountain slope a bit, because it cannot be just curved like that. There's no way that a mountain would have that shape. Yeah, and the main reason that my game is going to take place in the mountains a lot is because I just love mountains and mountain hiking. It's a very fun hobby, at least in my opinion. And a nice break from sitting in front of my PC for most of my life. Now smoothen it up. Much better, but still not exactly what I envisioned. Let me actually grab the other tool, the snake tool. Okay, that's pretty good, but I want this mountain to be a bit higher, because as I mentioned before, I'm going to put a special building on top to capture the player's attention right from the main village. Basically, they're going to spawn in the game for the first time, go through the tutorial or whatever, and then look around to notice the big fucking building over there. But how to bring up the mountain in a way that's not going to make it super spiky? Let's try grab. Considerably better. And smoothen up the tip. Yeah, it can be a bit sloped in a certain direction, because that kind of, lack of symmetry helps capture the attention. So there's definitely good if it's sloped in one direction more than the other, because like this mountain is more or less the same slope from the right and the left. And for this one we might have a view. Yeah, see, it just captures attention better if it's more sloped, or the center of mass, so to speak, is more shifted to one direction over the other. So let's try it that way, bring out the right side a bit more and the left side a bit down. Moving it up. It's moving it up too much, but back to the snake tool. Yeah, the snake tool is really powerful, meaning it has a very strong effect on the mesh, while the elastic deform tool has a way smaller effect, so I can be much more liberal with it. And with the snake tool I have to be very careful about how I drag it around. Still not exactly right. I mean, it's okay, but it's not perfect, just the way I want it. Okay, we're getting there. Just a bit more over here. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Then there's going to be the building on top, with a telescope looking out that way. And I think it's going to be composed very well. And it's going to look pretty nice. What we actually can do is put a bit more of a sharper slope around here. Contrast it up with the rest of the environment. Bring it up. It would be nice if there was like an additional ridge going away from over here to over here. But what I'm afraid of is that the player will be tempted to not go the right way, which is over here and to the mountain village, but instead they will just, you know, go in the open world to over here and then climb that ridge to sort of hack their way into the mountain region. So I would like that ridge, but I have to think of a way to prevent the player from climbing it. I could just surround it with like cliff meshes or even put a simple graphic wall over there, but that's lazy and it sucks and I don't want to do it. But it would be a very nice thing composition-wise. Yeah, I think I make this ridge and then think about how to prevent the player from abusing it later. So it's going to be a problem for a future version of me. So we can definitely put it in now. Reduce it up to 50. It's actually curved the wrong way. Let's try to curve it a bit more to the right from our current view. Let's go to 100. And this is why I chose Blender, because modeling it in Unreal doesn't really give me an option to just take an entire ridge and shift it a bit to the side. So That's why I'm modeling in Blender when I want to actually have the map in Unreal. It's a bit better, but it's still too flat. It's kind of too abruptly starting at the mountain, so we need to broaden up the base, smoothen it up, broaden up, smoothen again. Yeah, that looks okay. The only thing that's not okay is I would like this region to be lower. Maybe not that low, but definitely lower. Let's see, the player leaves from over here, goes to over there. There's a big slope around here, so that it can be impassable without breaking the suspension of disbelief. Yeah, and I can put something in this region, maybe like a hut with a hidden away merchant, or some kind of camp that would be next to the road. Yeah, I'm actually kind of liking this idea. Let me just bring the ridge in. Okay, I'm going to smoothen it up. And that's pretty good. The only way to fix it is to also smoothen up the area around here, bring it the mountain. Yeah, now it's accessible for the player from the road, and having that ridge over here. See that? There's a nice depth composition. We have the mountain, we have the ridge that's a little bit further, yet another ridge that's even further, and then another mountain. And we can also see a little bit of the other mountain over here. So the impression from the main village, which is going to be the first impression and therefore the most important, I think it's pretty good. Although it could use a bit smoothing up, but I'm a bit afraid to do it right now because maybe let's bring it down to 0.3. And please don't destroy the entire mesh. Okay. Mesh not destroyed, and the area is smoothened up. So I'm pretty satisfied with it. So this mountain is okay, this mountain is pretty good, this mountain is also pretty good, but the remaining mountains still need a lot more work. Alright, and what the fuck is that? Whatever. Let's start with this one. These mountains can be kind of done in a mediocre way, so to speak, but these mountains are very important for a few reasons. These ones are visible from the main village, so they have to be done well, and this one is a part of the entrance to the area, so it needs to be done well so that the entrance to the new biome is atmospheric for the player, and so that, they enjoy the game. But the remaining 3 mountains are just kind of there to, fill up space. Not exactly, I'm being a bit sarcastic, but you get the gist of it. Let's bring up the mountain around here. I'm not a big fan of this area, because in here I can put a lake or maybe make the village a bit bigger, but this, I don't know. Let's sculpt the mountain first. I want it to be much smoother and less pointy than this one, but still not that smooth. Okay, I'm pretty satisfied with it, except this part right here. Okay, that mountain seems finished to me. Maybe a bit more variation in there. Let's try some of the different brushes. What does this do? Nothing. Okay, let's not actually. I just got an even better idea for these mountains. First, we need to get rid of this one. So basically what I'm trying to do is make one mountain over here, and then the last one right here. So this one that's going to be in the middle is a sort of transient mountain. So the player can climb either to the camp over here or to the camp over here, and then from there make their way to the respective mountain chains. It's all exactly one chain, but you know, it's split into two parts. But what's the best way to do it? Let's see, how about we bring this one in for starters. And that way we actually have something interesting going on in this area around here. Because without it, we don't. So. I'm switching between a graphic tablet and a mouse, and it's kind of annoying. I definitely need more practice in Blender. But that's what happens when a programmer tries to make assets for their video game, I guess. Bring this part over here. And it's all fucked now. Can I just use the smoothing to completely erase it? Okay, that's decent. This one is a bit too sudden. It needs to be way more flat if there's going to be a camp on top of it. Let's go to 70. It's still a bit too sudden. And how is the player exactly going to climb it? Let's add yet another ridge. And then it will curve down to the village. Although I should probably stop calling it a village, it's going to be more of a shelter. And there's only going to be one village in the center. That's this massive cylinder. But mountain village sounds pretty good for now. I hate this part. This definitely isn't going to stay like that. Now what to do with this part? Okay, I feel like this bridge should be a bit less sloped and easier to go around. I'm not sure if the player could even climb it actually, because in Unreal I have a setting of like 45 degrees as the maximum climbable angle, so let's definitely bring it up. Okay, that is not terrible, which is pretty good for me. Okay, it is terrible. God damn it. Nothing the smooth brush couldn't handle. Okay, and this is nice because it actually creates depth from the mountain village too. Yeah, let's just put down another ridge right here. But this one is strictly cosmetic. This one is functional because it's used for the player to climb the mountain. But this one we're building right now is just to look nice. Smoothen it up. There we go. That's the depth I wanted. And this mountain is way smaller than this one and this one, which is good because that's exactly what it is for. Just a transient transition from the village to the mountains. So let's actually go back to shaping this mountain, because I'm pretty sure that what I was doing like half an hour ago. Smoothen up from this side. Wait, no. Why am I smoothing it up? God damn it. It has to be impossible by the player. Much better. Hey. This is actually good. Yeah, I like it. We can either do a ridge here, or I can put a chasm, or a lake, or some sort of river. But this should also be impossible by the player. But I'm a bit afraid that putting ridges everywhere is going to make it look idiotic. Although a chasm in the middle of an island? Yeah, no worries. I just put a really dense forest around here that will be completely impossible. And I think it will actually look better than having a ridge between every single mountain. That's the wrong brush. Yeah, we can lower the connection between these two mountains, because, as I said, this is going to be the mountain that's going to be transition between those two. So we actually need to do something completely different that's going to require a different brush of a different size. And now let's try making it. Yeah, no, not that small. Oh god damn it! Why did I? I wonder how long I was working with dynamic topology turned off, but no. That's one of the charms of Blender, I guess. Something went very wrong around here, but once again, nothing the smooth brush couldn't handle. And either the music died again, or I lost my internet connection. Thanks, YouTube. I really appreciate you turning off the music randomly. That's just great. Wonderful. Once again, I'm making the ridge kind of curve around the mountain, or behind it, just like I did over here, and for the exact same purpose, to create the sense of depth in the scene. Only it's not going that well, is it? The last ridge went way better. A part of the terrain is going to be formed in Unreal Engine with the splines, but I'm having trouble deciding if I'm willing to leave it here, or should I maybe improve it a bit? Let's try improving. Because if you don't know, Unreal Engine allows me to put like curves, which are called splines, around the map, and then I can assign a terrain to them. So for example, all of them are going to be grass or ground or anything, and it also allows me to modify the terrain around them, so that the terrain is automatically lifted or lowered to actually fit the spline, which is a pretty handy feature, especially for things like tools, like roads, tracks, etc. And I'm definitely going to use it for rivers because, you know, sculpting them is going to be a nightmare on that scale. Okay, let's see what we have. So the ridge is there. The depth, not great, not terrible. Serviceable. It would be much better if the ridge went around here. So if we could somehow shift this part, yeah, maybe without breaking the entire mountain. A bit more, come on. You're almost there, I can sense it. Basically, I want the output of the ridge, so to speak, to be on the same angle as the slope, because that way the track can naturally progress. But it's still not quite there. God damn it, why? Okay, I think that will do, because actually now the depth between the mountain slope and the ridge is way better. So it's pretty decent composition-wise. And from this angle too, where's the village? Here. Okay, that is not as terrible as I've expected. Bring up this mountain a bit more, and here we go. This mountain is a bit flat. Let's see how we could fix it. Let's actually try bringing down this side. Should we? What's the view? Yeah, we definitely should. You can barely see it from the starter village, so I don't have to worry about it too much. Oops. Okay, that one looks terrible from this angle. What the hell? Bring it out. Use the smooth brush. And we still have to connect this mountain to this one. I like the way the ridge descends from this mountain, but I hate the way it connects to this one. Let's see, how could we fix... And what the hell is that? Okay. And this time the angle is pretty decent. It could be, yeah, a bit more like that. Bring it back here. Hey, I kind of like it. there's some kind of anomaly around here, but other than that, it's pretty good. We could bring this one a bit more out, maybe just a part of it. Okay, not that small part of it. Okay, I'm starting to think it was a bad idea. It kind of looks like someone is having an erection. Flatten it out. Connect the ridge and the top, or rather the base, I guess. Smoothen out this part. Let's see, the player has to climb through here. Here's the camp. They can enter this mountain through this ridge. This mountain through this ridge. I'm not so sure about this addition. I added it to kind of break the ridge line in the view to make it more interesting, but I don't know. It doesn't look that good. Let's try to save it. And if you're wondering, I don't have like an idea for the entire map, just like a few general pointers. But I know more or less what I want. But still with just enough freedom to experiment a little bit. So this is good, but now the connection with the ridge is broken, so let's try to fix that. Lower this part. This part should go higher. Yeah, basically the player climbs this ridge. There's the camp. We can put some kind of a building or a ruin or a funny rock over here. Then there's the transition to the mountain on the right and the transition to the mountain on the left. And it doesn't look that boring from the bottom because there's going to be a cliff around here. I think I'm going to have these mountains, you know, textured with the general structure, or the generic rather. And then over here I'm going to actually set up the entire wall of this little bit with like cliff meshes to also break up the environment a little bit, just to make it more interesting. And that would be our mountains. Let's see, is there anything else we can do? So this is the place where the player enters. This is the mountain shelter or village or whatever you want to call it. There's a bit of empty space around here, but I can fill it up with forests. You know, forests are going to be good because this is a place where the player can collect wood, which is going to be the crafting requirement. So maybe it's better that we have some space over here. Maybe put some ponds or something like that. What else can we do? This spot looks a bit rough. But other than that, actually, let's move up this place just a little bit more. Because once again, this map is actually on a massive scale. So any change tiny in Blender will be huge in Unreal Engine. The plane is 8 kilometers wide. So just a bit more. Okay, I have a feeling if I mess with it a bit more, then I'm going to break the whole thing, so screw it. This is fine. This ridge over here is fine, this is okay. This area looks funny. The fuck is that? Let's flatten up this area, and then we can have a ridge over here. Just to, once again, break up the environment and make the mountains look a bit more interesting. Let's try the flatten brush. Nope, still doesn't work. Smooth? That ain't it. It's getting a bit claustrophobic here. Well, every time I pan the camera out, I run into some mountain. And these mountains are beginning to really annoy me. And we hide them. Holy shit, this is messy. I will definitely need to remesh that later. But other than that, this is okay. We should put more contrast between those two ridges, so let's go back to the... let's try using this one. Yeah, we can actually put a stream around here. Okay, I made it too small. 100? Bring this area out, bring this area in. We'll try bringing this one just a bit more out. Okay. Make them visible. Go back into smooth mode. I'm pretty satisfied with the inside. Although let's try lowering this area too. God damn it, wrong mode. Now, how should we go about that? Okay. I'm not so sure about this part. Let me just smooth it up and see what happens. I think that's better. But this feels a bit like a waste of map, because this area is going to be covered with dense forest, and this is going to be like one of the main places where the player can get a lot of wood. But this? It's way too far from the starter village to be used for a basic resource, such as wood. What sort of end game resource could I put in here? No, this is fine that this area is so high, but I don't know, this part just feels a bit wrong. You know, like a massive descent to the ocean. Because remember, this is an island, so these parts over here are going to be water. I don't know, it just kind of looks off, doesn't it? Fuck it, we're putting a beach here. This mode is not doing what I wanted it to. How about you? Nope, another disappointment. Because basically what I want is for that there is a cliff around here. You know, let's maybe make it a part of the mountain ridge. Actually a cliff? No, that's a good idea. Hell yeah! I'm not quite sure how we're going to connect them, but let's definitely go with the cliff idea. With cliffs, it's not as important to model them in Blender, because basically they are going to be covered with meshes, because there's no way to make a cliff wall look good in something like Blender, at least on this scale, because you can model out the cliff meshes themselves, but not an entire cliff at once. So this is just blocking out of the cliff face. Okay, let's try to smoothen it up. The cliff itself looks decent, but now it kind of looks like a bowl, but that's not the intention. Let's try to get them on the level. Basically, this part is impassable by the player, the other part too. So the player will have to go through the village and then keep going. And I put it in the wrong place. Great job. Thanks, me. I'll find a way around it. Because this would be useful in the area without the ridge. But well, whatever. I'll manage it somehow. It has to be in this area of the map because this is the corner. So we have to do something about the corner for it not to look stupid and to be rewarding enough for the player to go from the main village all the way to the edge of the map. How the hell am I supposed to bring this part up? Like this. Okay. Now I have to smooth up the edge between the cliff that I initially created and the actual, I don't know what to call this part even, beach. It's probably not going to be a beach, but I have to find a way to clean up this edge right here, because it looks idiotic. The difficult part about smoothing it up is not to actually violate the cliff face too much, because it still has to be relatively sharp and jagged, but, you know, it can't look stupid. I kind of like having parts of it much higher than the others, because that way there's some sort of perspective. So when the player is around here, they can see what's happening down below. So I can put some kind of collectible there, and it generally creates a nice perspective and composition for the player. You can see it very well in Elden Ring, because, you know, the entire landscape is just littered with like slopes and mountains and stuff, and every single high point is actually utilized to view, you know, waypoints around. So I'm trying to sort of emulate that, I guess. And it might be stupid to emulate Elden Ring for a cozy game, but I think that composition, you know, level composition in Elden Ring is really great. So that's why I'm doing it. Okay. This part is a bit high. Actually, it's not high enough. Right now I'm trying to decide if the amount of height variety on this area is good, you know, composition-wise. There's enough high points and low points. And I think it's pretty decent. We've got the mountains, we've got the cliff. Of course the player is never going to be here, because for now I don't intend to put in a boat. But the view is alright. The only thing we can do is actually make it harder to access from around here. So bring it up. Connect it up with the mountain, so that it creates a part of a hole. And yeah, this is good. Now, this area is a bit too sloped. It should be flatter. But how the hell do you flatten up terrain in Blender? You know, in Unreal Engine, you have the flatten brush, which basically levels everything to the same level. But in Blender, you don't have that kind of brush. Or at least I don't know about it. Which is kind of troubling when you have to just level something up. Because the smooth brush is not exactly what I want. It finds a sort of average level between the 2 points, and I don't want the average. I want to bring everything to the lowest level and then average them up. Displacement eraser. Let's try that. What's the worst that could happen? And nothing happened. Great. Pose. Holy shit, that's fun. No, it's not, it's useless. And everything changed back to the wrong viewing mode. Because the flatten brush in Blender doesn't flatten anything. Let's see. Okay, so if I were to zoom out, that's definitely not it. Alright. We have to do it the hard way, I guess. If it was a small area, I would just do it in Unreal. But it's a big area, so doing it in Unreal would crash my PC. Or take like an hour to reload the entire landscape every single time I implement any kind of change. And now we smooth it up. Bring out this part just a bit. And by just a bit, I mean quite considerably. And I kind of like it. So that's 1/4 of the map pretty much done. Or maybe even half of it. Although I would like this mountain to be a bit higher. Yeah, let's try it. What the hell. Let me just save my file before that, just in case. Let's go to a nice 200 and pull it out. There we go. This mountain is supposed to be pretty massive, so it's okay for there to be such a disparity between those mountains and this one. You know, this is supposed to be like an endgame location that the player can only reach when they have everything decked out. And what am I going to do here? Oh, I know exactly what I'm going to put here. Or at least I know what I'm going to put here. This is going to be the starter point to climb the mountain. So let's bring it out. Let's pull this area down. Just a little bit. That's pretty nice. That's a nice sharp cliff face. Here we're going to put a tiny little beach. I think I pronounced it wrong, but whatever. And let's just lower this down even more. Just a bit. This one is just to put some variety in the environment. Okay. I'm actually quite satisfied with the way it turned out. Let's go back to object mode, shading smooth. I wonder what it looks like now in render. In our little animation. Not bad. Not bad at all. Ah, I put it to 40, it should be 400. Okay, my eyes are starting to hurt from looking at the PC for so long, after a whole week of also looking at the PC, but let's keep going for a while longer. Right now what I want is to kind of create maybe not exactly a mountain, but definitely a point of interest around the beach. So 20. God damn it, I wanted to put it 20. Basically, there's going to be an area here that's kind of secluded from the rest of the map. It's only going to be accessible from the beach, but you will need to pass like a tunnel to get there. This is too much to the right. Let's try around here. Okay, that's pretty good. It should be a bit higher than the village. And I'm talking about the main village now. It cannot actually be a tunnel in the landscape, so it cannot be done in Blender, because then you need a lot of special trickery to actually handle the tunnel in Unreal Engine. But we can definitely do something to make the job easier on ourselves a little bit later. And that something is to create basically a massive pillar and then another pillar on the other side, and then I'll connect them using some meshes or bridge or something like that. But there will still be a passage between them. So this is going to be the second part. But is it high enough? I don't think so. It has to be higher than the village, basically for the same reason why this mountain needs to be so close to the village. Because this is going to contain a special building to capture the player's attention, and this is also going to house a special building for the exact same purpose. So that basically the player is spawned in the central village, looks around and wants to go explore the world. And if there's nothing visible in it, then why should the player explore it? So let's just keep on bringing those up. What the hell is happening over here? This is looking very odd. God damn it. 50. Alright, let's play that way, Blender. There you go. Now this might be a bit too high. Lower this one. Lower this one. Back to sculpt mode. And now let's smoothen it up. You know, I just moved vertices by hand, so it kind of messes up the Blender build. But having the dynamic topology on allows me to offset that by basically creating new topology now when I run the smooth brush around. So all is well that ends well. except I want it to be kind of also a cliff face, except facing the sea. So I want it to be, you know, leaning this way. And this part is going to be lower, on the same level as this part. I'm not sure why Blender refusing to cooperate. Come on. Oh my god, the flattened brush actually helped. This is the first time during this entire stream that the flattened brush was actually useful. Okay, I like this. This is basically the border of the beach biome. So make those a bit lower because they shouldn't be as high as the mountains. This is a bit sharp, but whatever. Okay, this is fixed. Let's take a look from the side. Yeah. It's a bit higher than the starter village, but a bit lower than the mountains. So it's pretty much the exact height I wanted it to be. But this one isn't. Okay, that's better. And now what we need to do is to create the rest of the border between the two biomes. So we'll do it the same way I created the cliffs. It worked back then, why shouldn't it work now? I want this area to be empty, because this is going to be a whole other video to actually sculpt it, at least what I have in mind for it. But this area should definitely be a bit higher. Because the empty area I just mentioned a second before, I want it to be filled with like tiny shattered islands just scattered around a big lake. But okay, this is looking actually pretty much very similar to what I had in mind. Yeah, the beach is going to be here, so we can actually afford to lift up this area and this area. Just blocking it out. Let me add a small cube. Let's go with 10 meters. Where the hell did it go? I'm going to use it essentially as a marker of height, because I'm afraid that once I start moving up this area, it will completely be lost. And I really like the height that we have now. So scale it out, bring it in. Shade smooth once again. And let's start smoothing out this clusterfuck that we have around here. Not 10, 100, come on. This is actually way too far, because once again we are operating on a massive scale, so any tiny change in Blender will be huge on the actual map. And this is how we are going to create the tunnel to sort of pass from the beach to the, other biome that I don't have a name for yet. By just bringing the tops of these two parts sort of together. Not quite, because I'm going to fill the gap with meshes in Unreal, but, just a little bit. Sculpt this part in to make it look more interesting. Okay, that did not work the way I expected it to work, but never mind. This part of the map should be more or less at the same level as the sea, because, you know, it's going to be islands. It cannot be, like, really elevated, because it's going to look stupid. This part is fine, this part is fine. Okay. Let's check how it composes itself with the mountain we have. Let's pull it in. Lower it a bit more. Smooth it up. Okay, I'm kind of digging it. The only change would be to get rid of this funky thing over here. I don't even know what to call it. Bring it in, bring it in, bring it in. Much better. I'm not quite sure why this part looks like a clusterfuck, but let's smoothen it up. Even more. Especially around here. Let's get rid of that, whatever this is. Make the transition less jagged and spiky. What the hell is that? What's wrong with you? Come on, disappear. Are we on the correct side? Yes, we are. It's a shame that only partially, but we are. I can work with that. Let's create a bit of a cut in here. Basically, these are going to be like dunes, and this is going to be the beach. So there's going to be like a transition between this sort of grassy area to the actual beach. So the fact that we have something this high near the beach is not wrong, because there's usually some kind of elevation, or at least at the beaches I've been to. Let's move it up. A bit more. Actually, I'm going to switch to the graphical tablet for that one. Back to the 100 and smooth brush. Good. Of course, this part still looks awful. Let's try to fix it. It's kind of too straight, don't you think? it would be boring for the player to just keep walking in a straight line. So we're going to curve it a bit. Get rid of this thing, whatever it was. I'm not quite sure about the music. I chose some kind of chill playlist, but the music doesn't sound very chill, does it? Whatever. I'll have to look for a better one for my next stream. This is a bit too sudden, too. So let's try to make the transition a bit better. Use the smooth brush to get rid of this. Okay. It's a good thing I'm just going to export the height map from Blender, because if I was going to export the actual mesh, then I would have to retopologize all of it. And I don't know, I don't think I could do that. Once again, a bit higher, a bit lower, a bit lower. Bring it in. Let's see. So the player is in the starter village. They look to the side and see the special building over here. They see the big ass mountain over here. And the last thing they see is a special building over here. And I think that having 3 distinct points is pretty much enough to actually cause the player to be interested enough to go exploring. So I hope I'm right. I really do. There might also be another interest point around here, but I'm not quite sure how to compose it. But that's a problem for another day. For now, I'd like to make the transition to the beach a bit more even. First of all, there's something weird going on around here. This is going to be water, so it shouldn't be so varying. Okay, I'm using the wrong brush. Yep. Okay. That's better. We could shift the dunes a bit more to the side, actually the entire thing. Yep, this is the beach. This is okay. Here are going to be the islands, the mountains, the hills, and the forest. Okay, I'm pretty satisfied. I mean, it could have been a lot better, but it also could have been worse. And it's definitely better than nothing. I'm not quite sure about this part, so let's get rid of it. Now, I'm only going to block out the last part, the hills, because I have absolutely no idea how to model them composition-wise, and I can feel the tiring effects of the stream getting to me. But let's try anyway. Nope, this one is too far. And this one is... no, this one is actually perfect. There's going to be another one over here. Since we are working with hills, they are way smaller, and actually we should change the fall off a bit. To sphere. Yeah, to make them much smoother. So the player should be able to actually see this hill from the starting village. So let's bring it even more out. And to see it, we actually should put another hill over here for composition purposes. And the path is going to go around here, so let's just blast yet another one around here. This one should be a bit bigger. And the music died again. Come on. Smoothen up this area. Now let's see. What are we working with? This is nice. The reason this is nice is because once again we have some depth around here. So there's going to be the path that's going on over here and then disappears behind the hill. And at the same time we have the depth perception because there's a hill in front of the other one. This is going to be the highest one. There's going to be a shrine here. I'm not sure it's going to be visible from the village, but it's definitely going to be important. I would also like to put a lake somewhere, but I'm not quite certain where. Actually, I think I know exactly where. We're just going to blast another hill around here. Another one around here, maybe? Nope. We have to think about the path too. So from the starter village, it's going to go... Where's the village? Here. Around here, curve around the hill, and go to the beach. Yeah, so this is perfect. And another one here. A bit higher up. A little bit higher. And you too. And our lake is going to be between these mountains. Because, well, they are not mountains, they are hills. But you get what I'm saying. Now we need to operate at a higher scale, so let's zoom out, bring them up. And there's the lake. Let's just find some way to make it nice and smooth. I want to bring this one out a bit, or at least make it the bigger height difference between these two parts. Once again, for composition purposes. Bring it out. These ones are fine. This is okay. We could actually put another one, I want to say around here, and then maybe one more around here. You know, this area is mostly going to be empty. It's going to contain grass and flowers and shit like that. So there has to be some kind of height variety to enjoy moving around and on this area. Yeah, and the path goes around here, curls around the hill, maybe goes between these hills. Yeah, I like that area. But to make it happen, we have to get rid of this one. Sorry. Yeah. Curves around this hill. There's another one over here, so that it can go between hills. And this is still the highest one, which is exactly what we wanted. I'm not so happy with the hills, to be honest. They just look too sudden to be hills, don't they? They are way too sloped. God damn it. But how can we bring them down without ruining the entire thing? Do we need to bring them down? Instead, let's bring them up. This one is too sloped. It needs to be smaller. And let's make this part higher. Maybe not this much, but definitely a little bit. And let's also make this a cliff face, because right now the slope right here is way too big. And you know, if it's a cliff, then it doesn't seem actually that big, because the player won't be able to walk on it. So this gives us more of a functional area around here, and less of a slope that has to be defeated by the player every time they try to walk around. And we will need to actually raise this entire area to the similar height. A bit of a hassle, but not too difficult. That is okay. Let's move it up. Not this part, goddammit. This part actually has to be less smooth. But there are better ways to do that. Actually, are there? Maybe not. Come on. Not you. We have to do something about this part. Although, do we? Yes, we do. Unfortunately, we do. 100. And let's bring it up a little bit. Just to get that nice sharp cliff face. Same thing around here. Lower this part, which is going to be water. This is way too high. What the fuck? Something went terribly wrong around here, but I'm not going to fix it right now. Although maybe I should. This part is too low. Come on. I mean, I can work with that, but... Or no, actually, this part is too low. The beach? How the fuck is that even possible? Well, luckily for us, that's a very easy fix. Boom, done. Right? Wrong. The transition between the beach and the water should be much smoother, that's for sure. And what the hell went wrong around here? I think that using, or rather modifying it in edit mode will be simpler, but I could be terribly wrong. Let's increase it, try to bring it down. Same thing here. This is why I like Blender. You can modify every single point you want, just the way you want it to be modified. You can do it with, 2D drawings, which is why I suck at drawing. And don't get me wrong, I suck at sculpting too, but it's not as bad. And let's bring this one out. We don't get the benefit of dynamic topology that way, but nothing that can be solved with a smooth brush. The transition between those two is a bit too big, so let's solve that problem. And I just moved something and I have no idea what. Great. Okay. This is where the beach starts, so we can't overdo it, but let's keep pulling them out to have a nice transition into the cliff. Ooh, I like that. I actually like that a lot. This is good, this is good. This is a bit high. How is it looking from over here? Decent, actually, surprisingly. This is fine, this is fine. I'm quite happy with it. I mean, this area has a lot of height variation, which is good for video games. Because it gives a varied, playground area for the player. Let's see, so here we are on the main hill. This is looking fine. The lake won't actually be that deep, but it's okay, it's fine. I can just place the water plane somewhere higher up. Let's go back to the main village. Disappear it for a while. Yeah, we have the depth. So we have 1 hill, 2 hill, 3 hill. Actually, this one could be a bit higher. Just a little bit. Once again, it's all about the composition and the first impression. So the view from the main starter village has to be impeccable. Or at least as good as I can make it. I'm not exactly an artist, at least not a 3D artist. Or 2D for that matter. More of a musician, really. Smoothen it up. From that side, from that side. There we go. Now there's a view. Let's see what happens when I smoothen up this area around here. I'm just kind of curious. But let me actually save the file beforehand. I save way, not enough in Blender. Okay. This did pretty much exactly what I wanted it to. So that's always good. And I'm really liking that. Or at least I did until I saw this part, but, it's fine, I guess. Okay, so let me actually go into object mode. What we have to do now is create a cliff face around here and fix it up around here. Please don't laugh at my handwriting, I know it sucks. And then we have to take a look at the beach, just to make sure that it's okay. And then we have to make the tiny islands. How to call it? Let's call them scattered islands. Yeah, I'm a genius at naming stuff, I know. But what we have already created now is the mountains. The hills are okay. The transition to the sea lantern that I'm going to put over here is fine. And the mountain is fine. So most of our map is actually complete. But this is where I have to finish the stream, because I'm pretty tired, and for my first stream it was quite tiring, to be honest with you. So yeah, thanks everyone for watching, and see you next week probably.